machine ushers in a new automotive era. The name becomes the best-selling vehicle of its day. For almost 5 decades, it has roared to life across America.
The Mustang is a very unique car. There are very few nameplates out there in the car world that have survived a decade, much less 5.
It's a badge that coins a simple phrase.
It's America's pony car.
The current generation has been in production for over a decade. Technology has advanced. Competitors are ready to take its place. Ford needs a new machine.
Mustang is Ford's halo product. It is the product that shows everyone what the team at Ford is capable of building.
The rush is on to build the most important Mustang ever, a 50th anniversary machine intended to go global for the very first time.
Anytime you're doing a new Mustang, there's always a very big fear that you're going to alienate people, that you're going to do something wrong.
This is an inside look as the clock ticks to reinvent the Ford Mustang. For over 100 years, the Ford Motor Company has been building motorized vehicles for the masses. The story starts with the Model T, the world's first affordable automobile. Then the F-150 pickup truck, the best-selling vehicle in the United States for the past 37 years. And finally, the Mustang, the world's very first pony car.
The Mustang is such an iconic car. It's so connected to people's ideas of the country, our national pride.
Introduced on the 17th of April, 1964 at the New York World's Fair, the first-generation Mustang immediately captivates the audience.
The history of the car itself and what it meant to the country, it really epitomizes the sort of optimism of the 60s.
The car is an instant sensation, selling 22,000 units the very first day it goes on sale. A year and a half later, the 1 millionth machine rolls off the line, shattering sales records for the time.
It was clearly the right car for the right time, or it would have never sold in those numbers. Today's best-selling cars don't come close to the volume that the Mustang had in its first year. Not even close.
Over the past 50 years, Ford sells just over 8 million Mustangs.
This was a car that a secretary could drive, or an executive could drive, or your mom could drive.
But the 5th generation of the machine has been in production for 9 years. An eternity in the automotive world. To keep customers coming back to showroom floors, Ford needs to rejuvenate the Stang.
The Mustang is so tied to the company that messing up that is just as damaging in the public's eye as screwing up a mainstream model.
Not screwing up the legend falls on the shoulders of just one man, Dave Perisak.
He's probably gonna hit me for saying this, but he's a little nuts. Then there are just the dudes who want to build the car that they wanted to have when they were 25 years old, doing burnouts in front of the police station to drive everyone crazy. That's Dave.
Perisak has led Team Mustang since 2008 and is the 5th chief engineer for the pony car platform.
I think everybody waits for the day that you get the call to be the next guy for Mustang. It was almost surreal. It was almost something that I didn't believe was happening, but it was definitely a dream come true.
A dream come true that has a major deadline. And just 1,460 days to get it done.
Knowing the 50th anniversary was coming up, the planning started, and so I've been here since day one on the planning of the Gen 6 Mustang.
Lots of cars are billed as groundbreaking machines. The 6th generation actually could be. It's the first Stang planned to be a global platform.
We decided early on to take it global. It's a dedication that we were going to make to the brand and to the company. The world's been ready for us. They wanted Mustang for a long time. The world is watching this car, so just laying awake at night and thinking, did we get that right? Do we need to do more of this? Do we have to change this?
Planning the new machine starts with a single team meeting.
The first meeting is realizing what are the goals, what are we trying to achieve with it. Yep. I want to make sure that everything will be available at the dealership before the cars arrive.
Head designer Maury Callum is the man who determines the look and feel of the new machine.
I think we all could sense pretty much that we wanted to do a really special car. We wanted to do something that the people would recognize and people would appreciate.
He's not only a custodian for the Stang, but a guardian for the brand.
It's amazing how much interest there was in the Mustang in terms of where the design was going and how it would evolve. If you screw that up, you screw the company up.
With the 50th anniversary celebration less than 4 years away, the design team doesn't have a lot of time to nail the look of the new machine.
Imagine if it made the Mustang that everybody hated. It's a lot of weight for anybody dealing with a car that's been around so long and it means so much to people.
Mustang is the brand builder for Ford. This is the car that enthusiasts think of first when they think Ford.
In the automotive world, iconic machines rarely stray from proven identities. But Ford needs a striking new machine to captivate younger car fans. Yet the company can't mess up a formula that's worked for 50 years.
Mustang's had its periods of being consistent to its origins, and then it sort of drifted away and come back again. So it has really adapted to the time.
There's really actually a great deal of variation over the years in what they've looked like between the 60s, the 70s, the 80s especially, and now the 90s and the 2000s.
One of the keys to the car's longevity has been its ability to transform alongside American culture. Like a true democracy, the Mustang morphs over time.
You can kind of identify the decade, the era by the Mustang. It's changed with American culture.
It's a culture that continues to influence the current Mustang design team.
The good thing about Mustang is, you don't need to write a big, long design brief. You just tell the designers, go and sketch Mustang. And they come back with some great ideas.
Great ideas often start in the past.
We, look back in the history book. That really gave us a rich heritage of design cues. Really beginning with the face of Mustang, of what we call a shark bite grille. So you kind of get this little play on heritage.
Well, one of the things we wanted to really do in this car was bring back the true fastback. So we really have got a great centerline profile to the car.
However, to continue to be relevant, the world's first pony car needs to evolve.
We wanted to make a cleaner statement and give the design a little more timelessness.
This is a car with a lot of pent-up lust for it, and people want to know what this Mustang's going to look like. So, quite frankly, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't sometimes. The studio was pretty tense in here.
That tension comes from having to please two different markets at the same time. A year before the design process begins, Ford conducts market research on attitudes about Mustang around the world. US customers want a tougher Stang, while European consumers want a smoother-looking machine. The solution comes down to basic dimensions. The team starts putting pen to paper just over 1,200 days before the 50th anniversary deadline.
We've really worked on the proportions. We've pulled the A-pillars back, we made the hood longer, we made the car wider, enhancing the stance of the car.
It really just helps to give a very hunkered down, assertive proportion. So as we begin our design process, we always iterate with numerous design sketches. This board shows a small fraction of all the design work that we've generated. This was one of the first sketches that really kind of captured the feel of this very modern front end for Mustang. It really has this nice tapering quality and a very strong muscular shoulder over the rear wheel. Kind of really portray this muscular quality in Mustang.
The muscular personality starts to come to life thanks to a classic artistic medium.
Well, the initial step is getting the car down on paper. Say you talk to designers, they sketch a Mustang, you get a lot of enthusiasm, you get a lot of different ideas.
Yeah. What are you?
And then we go into a scale model phase. We then do a range of scale models, and then these scale models will eventually pick 2 or 3 and go to full-size clays.
The full-scale clay is no ordinary model. It's handcrafted by a master modeler. He will spend hours getting a single line just right. And weeks working the clay until it's perfect.
Then eventually we'll pick the right car for the next stage. Then we'll build different types of models, both the interior and the exterior of that.
Once the clay is dry, it's time to see how the new machine bends light. They use a reflective rack to quickly color the car.
Then we go to various hard models like this model here. And then what we call an inside-outside model here, and that's really the time where the big money gets spent and someone signs the check and says, yeah, we're going to go for it.
Utilizing classical artistic mediums, it takes the team a year to dial in the final shape. But with just over 700 days left before the 50th anniversary, Team Mustang needs some cutting-edge tech to hit their deadline. The pressure to finalize the new 2015 Mustang is mounting for Dave Perasek and his team. Every second and every computer chip cycle count. Deep inside the Ford Design Center, in a hidden area, there's a brave new world being born 1 pixel at a time.
We are in the virtual space of the Ford immersive vehicle environment. Even though there looks like there's nothing here, there's actually a 2015 Mustang in this room.
The high-tech room features motion tracking cameras that connect to a 3D headset, which can interact with a virtual world. The 3D system allows Ford to bring the new machine to life before a single car is ever built.
We're looking at the vehicle in a bunch of different iterations. Really brings that spreadsheet to life. It goes way beyond just looking at PowerPoints.
The digital system gives engineers the ability to look inside a full-size machine.
We can cut this vehicle in half, and we can actually look at the engineering structure. There we go. And I can actually look at the engineering structure with respect to the design.
The structure might start deep inside a computer with 1s and 0s, but as the deadline to the 50th anniversary grows tighter, the only number that matters is the Stang's planned top speed. An electronically limited 264 kilometers per hour, while the virtual environment lives on the bleeding edge. The most important advance for Generation 6 is actually a rather old technology.
Early on, we talked about the fact that it was time to put an independent rear suspension in this car. It was something that we circled and said we have to do it.
The Mustang's been a solid rear axle for as long as anyone can remember. Pretty much since the day it was made.
A solid rear axle is a dependent suspension design, where a set of wheels is connected laterally by a single beam. It's a time-tested engineering solution that's cost-effective because of its simplicity.
When you have a solid rear axle, one wheel goes up, the other one wants to go down, which means the car doesn't do well in bumps, especially in corners.
An independent rear suspension is a more complicated system that allows each wheel on the same axle to move freely from the other.
All it means is that the two wheels in the back can move in different directions at the same time. One can go up without the other one necessarily going down.
Even considering the change causes commotion in the Mustang community.
In the world of Mustang, there are two camps. There is a solid rear axle camp and an independent rear suspension camp.
In 1965, the original Mustang team intended to use an independent rear suspension. But accountants determined that they could save $100 per car if they chose a solid axle instead.
To keep the price point of that car where it was, they were going to have to pull money out somewhere. Having a solid rear axle has enabled the Mustang to stay inexpensive.
On the track, the solid rear axle helps the machine gain a following on the drag strip. Burnouts become a way of life for the pony car crowd. But no matter how much rubber you burn, time doesn't stand still. Since then, the simple system has become part of the car's ethos. The Mustang is the last sports car with a solid rear axle setup. Until now.
We really wanted to make it a legitimate sports car. We didn't want it to be, seen as a sort of Neanderthal, sort of old-time muscle car.
The car can ride a lot better and handle better at the same time. The drawbacks are a big amount of weight and a big amount of cost, and for the longest time, it just wasn't worth doing that. Having the Mustang, now sold worldwide, all of a sudden it needed to happen.
Maybe 50 years too late, but it's the right thing.
The decision to modernize the rear suspension on the Gen 6 Mustang comes down to a simple conversation with one very important man.
Mr. Ford. Well, when we decide on things like a new front end, ultimately we have to go to Bill because Bill's a part of the board of directors.
Bill is Bill Ford, Jr., the executive chairman of Ford Motor Company and the great-grandson of Henry Ford. In the automotive world, he's a rarity because he's the last automotive scion whose name is still on the side of the building.
Bill definitely gets involved. He loves Mustangs. He understands what this car means to the company and what it means to his family. It makes my job a bit easier when I go in there and try to have a discussion about a new suspension system or a new front end. They support me.
While the independent suspension helps get around the corner, it also puts Team Mustang in a bind.
As we put the rear suspension in, we didn't have an intention to change the front suspension at all. The first time we took the car out for a ride, it was very obvious that the rear was outperforming the front, and it was noticeable. I mean, it just wasn't going to keep up.
The 50th anniversary target is less than 2 years away. But it only takes Team Mustang 10 minutes to confirm their worst fears. In order to get the new Stang right, they need to hit the brakes hard.
The bosses don't like to hear it. If this car is important enough, yeah, you can throw a stop in the middle of the whole thing and say, we need to go back and fix this. We haven't done it well enough.
As the days pass until the new Mustang's launch, the engineering U-turn causes drastic changes.
We went back to the drawing board and said, okay, now we're doing a new front suspension. And so the scope of the program started getting pretty big at that point. Before you knew it, it was completely white sheet of paper. We're starting from scratch. Let's do this thing right.
white paper equals a clean sheet redesign. And a very difficult conversation with the boss.
It's very telling that Dave was able to go back to management and say, okay, I put this independent rear in, and all of a sudden the front's just not good enough. He told his chassis guys, listen, if this were the last day on Earth, and you had the old Mustang Boss 302, which was an amazing car, and the new Mustang to choose from, which would it be? And he told them not to stop developing until it was unequivocally the new car.
As the scope of the project increases, the days until the 50th anniversary continue to count down. And so does the team's funding.
We still have chrome DLO.
There's not a hard conversations on just how we're going to do it. Hard conversations around investments, how we're going to fund this. Remember, we had a birthday party to get to. And the birthday party wasn't moving.
A birthday celebration that's planned for the top of the Empire State Building in New York City. The date is set, the plans are made. And now every moment in between matters. Team Mustang has just under 700 days to bring their newest pony car to the market. Turning the next corner will take a brand new engine and a little bit of muscle. The 50th anniversary of the world's first pony car is just a year and a half away. In 1965, the original Stang took 8.2 seconds to hit 60 miles an hour. Dave Perisak and his team plan to cut that number in half with the new Generation 6 machine. But a launch off the line is hard to see at the moment. Team Mustang has just hit the reset button on a clean sheet redesign. While they struggle to solve the new suspension problems, other engineers tackle more muscular concerns.
One of the first key questions that we had to deal with is, what are we going to do with the powertrains? What are we going to do with the engines?
The original Mustang's largest engine made 210 horsepower. Today, that doesn't get the job done.
We needed an engine lineup that was going to be more powerful and at the same time more fuel efficient, so that was definitely on the radar.
The team decides on 3 power plants. The first 2 are enhanced versions of classic Ford engines. A naturally aspirated 300 horsepower V6 and a flagship 5-liter V8 that pumps out 435 horsepower.
There's this whole sort of obsession about V8s. Some people still have it, but I think people now appreciate you can get a lot of power out of smaller engines.
But the biggest news is the smallest package, a secret engine designed at the Beach Daily Technical Center. It's a rarely seen high-tech laboratory for engines.
We're always having the I need more power discussion, right? But you can never have too much power with Mustang.
The Beach Daily facility is a sophisticated complex where engineers use sand casting and rapid prototyping printers to build one-of-a-kind parts for the new Mustang.
Parts on this vehicle that came through this lab in development are a significant number of the parts of this car.
Almost every single part on the new Stang can be prototyped inside these walls.
The rapid prototyping has been a huge part of making this machine come to life. It helps us to get some answers really quick.
The process starts deep inside another computer. The data is sent to a 3D printer. The system uses a UV laser to harden liquid resin one layer at a time.
always take parts from a computer model and we slice them up like a deck of cards, and then we make them one layer at a time additively. We build parts from this vat of resin. It's kind of like syrup.
That syrup is so expensive that Ford keeps the exact cost confidential. While the money spent is obscure, the time required to use it is remarkably short.
The intake manifold, it would take a day and a half to build in this machine.
A 15-centimeter tall part takes up to 30 hours to build. Once the accuracy of a part is verified, it's time to build a more advanced and robust prototype part. This time for a running engine.
This is called selective laser sintering.
Next, the team uses a high-tech 3D sand printer. It's just like an inkjet printer, only instead of ink, it uses glue.
This machine takes nylon powder, very fine, like talcum powder, and it spreads a layer of that. The machine will heat it up, and then a laser will come and melt those particles together.
The printer grows components 1 grain of sand at a time and is accurate down to 0.05 of a millimeter. That's roughly 6.5 times the length of a single red blood cell. But sand printing is no day at the beach. Before you can touch the finished piece, you have to dig it out.
This is the breakout station. We get to play archaeologists and dig our parts out. You can print a whole box full of parts in about 2 days, so we can have a part back to you in a matter of a couple of weeks. In the old way, it might have taken 4 months to get a part.
Just 5 years ago, turning 3D car data into a functioning engine took up to 6 months. Now it takes just 10 weeks. And for Team Mustang, every week matters as the 50th anniversary deadline approaches.
You build it, you test it, you make sure it fits, and then you go on to the next step.
You know, as we start to develop the engines, we will do some rapid prototyping. You might have rapid prototype parts right alongside production parts, and then we will put it through some testing. So it might go out to our MPG.
MPG stands for the Michigan Proving Ground. This is where new pony cars are run for the very first time.
To be honest, every manufacturer has their own testing facility. Ford's handling loop is pretty awesome.
Inside of a top-secret 16-square-kilometer facility that features over 160 kilometers of roads. It's here where Team Mustang tests new engine parts in an early Generation 6 prototype on a unique high-speed oval capable of sustained 320 km/h speeds.
You know, it'll do some durability runs, and they'll run it through its paces. Then they'll bring it back into beach days, and they'll tear it down, and they'll say, how did everything perform?
To test it, the team puts 1.5 million kilometers on the new engine, the equivalent to nearly 74 years of everyday driving. Some is done very slowly, some is done very smoky, and some hits the edge of the performance envelope. During the machine's 4-year development process, engineers tear down over 120 engines, scientifically looking at each and every piece until the design is just right.
If something, in fact, is not durable, or if it is falling a bit short of our target, then we'll go back and we'll actually re-engineer it, and we'll go through almost that whole process again. At the same time, they've got me screaming at them, saying, I need more power, so now they're trying to engineer, more power. It just keeps going round and around.
With just over a year before the new machine's introduction, the team continues to test the engine on the track. Meanwhile, new concerns emerge.
Just because you go fast, just because you are having fun and driving, we still want to make sure this car is the safest possible.
To make the Gen 6 machine the safest Mustang ever, the team focuses on the new US roof crush standard. The law mandates that all new machines must hold over 3 times their weight should a car flip over in an accident.
We actually are going to achieve 4 times the weight of the car.
To exceed the government standard, Team Mustang uses a new cutting-edge technology called hydroforming to make the machine's roof rails. The engineering team turns to Schuler, a German company that first started bending metal in 1839. Today, they produce a variety of cutting-edge stamping solutions.
You want to bring roof lines lower and you want to sleek things out, you definitely have a bigger challenge to meet things like roof crushing. Hydroforming is one way to produce an extremely strong, very efficient structure.
Hydroforming is an advanced way to press metal into extremely lightweight and structurally stiff pieces, using heavy weight and water.
We start out with a round tube. Then it goes through a bending process. So the next step would be to put this tube into a hydroforming die. These here would be the lower die, the upper dies. Once the tool is completely closed, that's when we bump up the water pressure to over 20,000 psi.
20,000 psi, or pounds per square inch, is almost 500 times the average car's tire pressure.
In order to form this part, using the pressure that's in there, that requires 3,200 tons of force. So that force is like 1,000 cars stacked up on top of this die to hold it closed.
When we take this part out of the die, it wants to go back to its original shape, what we call as a spring back.
The stamped tubes spring back to their original shape by up to 5 millimeters. That's roughly 50 times the height of a single strand of human hair. It doesn't sound like much, but with just over 365 days until the machine's 50th anniversary. The only thing that's more exact is the margin of error for Team Mustang's birthday celebration. It's been nearly 1,400 days since Team Mustang started planning the 6th generation machine. Now, mass production is just around the corner.
So just an update on where we are on the program, guys. I think everybody knows that we're heading into the TT build for the convertible and the PP build for the fastback.
A PP build is a pre-prototype version of the machine. A small batch of 100 cars to ensure everything is going according to plan.
My job is to make sure that I'm keeping everybody focused and on track. See me in my office, we go through all the details. I want to know what the team's plan is to get to line 90. Don't meet with me on Friday to tell me why you can't get it done. Meet with me on Friday to tell me what you're doing to get it done and what help you need. I am a bit of a football coach in a way, right? I've got to keep their morale up. I've got to make sure that even in the hard times that they understand why we're doing what we're doing. I just want to make sure, guys, that we stay on top of that testing that's completing so that we don't get ourselves into a bind. That meeting is actually one where we set the whole pace for the program. Where are we at in the program? What's coming up next? What big decisions do we have to make? No, guys. So that meeting gets a little heated at times, or, you know, we'll call it energized.
Not having the part on the bomb doesn't help anybody right now.
I don't want to talk to engineers. I don't want to sit there and go through the details. I want to ask why he can't get the work done.
The meetings can be tense. A lot is on the line for Team Mustang, and the company, too.
If the new Mustang failed, Dave would be out of a job.
And I don't need to go to an executive director so that he can tell us that we need to go faster.
Those were the nasty, everyday 3.5, 4-hour meetings in the studio where we cycle team after team. Let's start one at a time. Chrome yellow. What are we waiting on?
When you have passion, it doesn't just happen in one meeting. It's all day long, right? Yeah, sometimes the passion is very prevalent. Do me a favor, don't bring this in my Friday discussion, because if it's in the Friday discussion, it won't be a good discussion.
Every part on this car has been at least debated 10 times. It's going to be a while before the seat guys and the wiring guys and everybody get there. There are several parts in this car where we are running on the ragged edge. I mean, I should say word fought, but we debated every 0.5 millimeter on this car to make sure that we are optimizing to the last 0.5 millimeter.
While the engineering team obsesses over millimeters and the pre-production team focuses on prototypes, the pressure is palpable.
We really are spending a lot of time in the prototype stage, in the development stage, but there's a lot of pressure in the launch phase.
Before the Mustang team can start mass producing the Generation 6 machine, they have to learn how to hand build it.
The plant's got a big responsibility in making sure that we can build the unit the way it's designed. So we get involved very early on with the design to make sure it's manufacturing feasible. And then we get involved with what's called VP build, virtual production build.
The virtual production build takes place across the street from the final assembly hall, inside a clandestine prototype building that the public never gets to see, known only as the pilot plant.
We have a team of product specialists that get involved with the VP build up at the pilot plant. Now, this is our build prove-out facility. This is where we first get an opportunity to take the parts and the process and get our product specialists involved with doing a static build of a vehicle.
But we'll build a batch of cars and then we'll stop and we'll do some testing, and then we'll build another batch and stop and test.
The pilot plant is a secure facility where the pressure mounts for Team Mustang one bolt at a time. The perfect place to test fit parts on the new Mustang.
If we can learn how to build a vehicle statically, then we can transfer that knowledge onto the assembly line. So they're in there proving out the production processes and getting their hands on the parts and the way the vehicle goes together at a very, very early stage.
Everything is identical to the final assembly hall, except for one small detail. The line never actually moves.
You can see we've got a version of each one of our conveyors. And we have all of our tools right in this building, so we can prove out the process right in here before we have to take it to the assembly line.
After many months of trial and error, the pilot plant prototypes are ready to hit the road. It's time to take a trip back to the Michigan Proving Grounds, where Team Mustang puts the new machine through a variety of paces, including testing a brand new feature that's not available on any other machine. Line lock, a factory-enabled burnout control.
Why not, number one, is why wouldn't you do it?
It's juvenile, it's moronic, it's awesome. And it's one of the reasons why I love the Mustang's engineering team.
The line lock system lets weekend warriors properly warm up their tires at the drag strip. Something that's not exactly condoned by the machine's warranty. But in the battle for pony car supremacy, every new feature counts.
Line lock serves zero purpose at all for no reason other than just to go out and be a hooligan.
Why is this the ultimate hooligan's car? Because I think many of us, we haven't left high school.
Once they first started putting big engines in them, they haven't looked back.
Today, that big engine is the 5-liter V8, which cranks out 435 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque. The 5-liter Mustang launches from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 4.5 seconds.
The new Mustang is shockingly refined. It can compete on the merits of quietness and smoothness.
But the ultimate surprise is the all-new EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine.
It was specifically designed for Mustang. You can get V8 type power in this case with a 4-cylinder engine and produce 33 miles per gallon. The previous V8 was cranking out 315 horse. We're gonna be doing that with a 4-cylinder now.
The EcoBoost offers V8 power with 4-cylinder fuel economy.
Fuel economy is certainly a bigger concern in Europe than it is in the US, and the Mustang possibly couldn't be sold in Europe without that Turbo 4.
But it's the revamped suspension that adds a new edge to the Mustang, a system that at one point stopped development.
They've bitten the bullet, they've spent the money, and designed an all-new rear end that really is going to make this car that much more of a sports car. It's really going to unlock a lot of potential in this car.
The new independent rear suspension helps sling the Stang around corners and down straightaways. Punch the pedal to the floorboard, and the GT will hit an electronically limited top speed of 264 kilometers an hour. It's taken over 4 years of painstaking design, engineering, and testing. Team Mustang is ready to put the all-new Generation 6 machine into production.
Each build, we improve upon our training and our processes. Then we carry it all the way up through MP1, which is mass production. The orchestration of the parts coming together into the process at the right time, that's the magic of manufacturing. Because every part's produced for a certain serial number of a vehicle. So having those parts arrive to the vehicle at the right time just takes a tremendous amount of really good integrated systems work to make that happen.
After more than 4 years of hard work, all of that magic comes together on the 17th of April, 2014. The very first mass-produced Generation 6 Mustang finally rolls off the line. Just in time for the machine's 50th anniversary. A celebration planned for the top of the Empire State Building, where 50 years to the day, Ford introduced the 1965 Mustang. It's a date Team Mustang couldn't miss, for the newest variant of a car coined the phrase pony car. But today is no longer showcasing merely American muscle. Now it's a global high-performance competitor. And how it will be received is up to car fans around the world.
Say what kept me up at night was just making sure that we did it the best that it could be done. But it's also something that you never forget, that you're gonna get a report card from everybody. The report card is from the whole world.